diverse state of California. What about Bolsa Chica? Okay. Some of the topics here. Let me get a pointer here too. Just places we'll mention. Just if you don't know it, it depends on how the mapping is. It's 13, 14, 100 acres outlined by this line that goes around. Depends on if you count a 32-acre buffer and ecologic buffer built out as a condition by the Upper Mesa and Hearthside Homes. The Lower Mesa we'll mention. Connection to Huntington Harbor right here off of Warner Avenue. Big long linear Bolsa Chica State Beach with its dunes. There's dunes on the inland side of the Coast Highway that runs through the whole section. It's about 3 miles, Warner down through Sea Point that comes out here. Harriet M. Weeder Park that comes up, and I can't see it because everybody's face is there. Anyway, Harriet Weeder Park connects with Huntington Central Park, long linear strip, 104 acres, tidal inlet channel for the full tidal basin. We'll talk about that as the newest piece of this wetlands restoration. Inner Bolsa Bay. There's a bridge that everybody's probably familiar with here. This is an open spot as a nesting site 1. That's part of the restoration. There's also turn islands, nesting islands, north and south. There's newly manufactured some. It's part of the lowland restoration here and here. Wintersburg Channel drains part of the parking lots at Disneyland. And we'll mention this muted tidal connection, Outer Bolsa Bay to Inner Bolsa Bay. Let's think about Bolsa Mesa and the Huntington Mesa, because we'll go to and talk just about a little bit of geology. And I'm not advancing, so I'm going to take that laser pointer out. But a lot of us know Bolsa Chica because there's great access at the Warner, free parking lot at Warner. There's a parking lot at Weeder Park, and right here the south parking lot, and this wonderful bridge maintained by Department of Fish and Wildlife, and you can see the rich habitat here. But you can walk along. I've seen clapper rails just running through the cord grass. You see stingrays floating by and going through here. Terns flying by, foraging skimmers that go right over and do their job. An amazing observation post, as well as a circle. I should come back again. There's a wonderful just path you can take over the bridge here in the parking lot, and you can do these loops. There's also walking trails along the bluff edge that come out here. Wintersburg Channel and the county flood control. It's real approachable, and there's a bunch of real rare things here that you can walk right up to. I don't know that you can do that just every place you go in a park-like setting. A wonderful historical treatise by Dr. Dave Carlberg, published by the Amigos de Bolsa Chica, goes into great depth, showing the wonderful effort to save this area, because then we'll mention that it had heavy plans and deep planning, a lot of money spent to try to make it a marina, not looking like a Bolsa Chica Ecological Reserve that it is now, and MPA, so it's got a marine protection area over the top of it. Let's step back just a little bit. What formed it? Well, you had all, without development, just thousands of years ago, those two mesas between Bolsa Mesa and Huntington Beach Mesa was called the Bolsa Gap. Why? Because the Santa Ana River punched out right there through the two headlands, and it also braided over throughout history. The Santa Ana River, this is kind of where it ends up now. It also commingled with San Gabriel River, and even further commingled with the LA River that ends up in up in here. So as it wagged around through thousands of years, if you back up further, there's ice ages and we were underwater, or the sea level was way offshore. But the most current epic shows this channel here, and then it gets channelized. A great thing was, I think Portola was coming up from tripping Baja during early explorations, and they came to the edge of the Santa Ana River right through here, and he said it was about a foot deep and a half-mile wide. So out of the hills of Laguna Hills, etc., this whole expanse of Southern California now quite built out, nice flat lands. They had to go well inland because most of this coastline through here, right up through LA, was all marshes. Newport Back Bay, the Bolsa Chica, Anaheim, Alameda space, right up through the LA Long Beach harbors, then Ballona Creek on the other side. So it was hard to get through, but let's remember that water took its course, and they had some huge episodes, some that even formed the whole peninsula of what is now the peninsula and Balboa, Newport Beach. There's faults that go through. This is the lower mesa at Bolsa Chica, upper mesa now built out with Harside homes. But there's quite a fault line, Newport Inglewood, that's still potentially active. We have to remember all those things. Goes through the lowland, the oil fields, comes out to Garfield Street. Let's not forget our history. For thousands of years, 8,000 to 9,000, the indigenous folks lived here, but there's been impacts to find the true full story of all of their activities. And we can talk about further in the colonial thing, but this is more of a plant talk. And even just plowing up the fields to, for grains, etc., beans, grains that happened around here in the bluffs, can dig up and ruin the continuity of buried resources. We're up in this area, so the named groups were after their San Gabriel mission, San Juan Capistrano mission, but more common use name is the people that occupied this area, the indigenous groups, were the Tongva and Ahachiman. And we want to take just a little bit of time to honor their presence as and respect their use of the plants. They were the original plant scientists. They used it for cordage, for clothing, for housing, for medicine, for food, and they knew it pretty good. Bolsa Chica is famous as a center for these cogstones. Nobody quite knows exactly what they were used for. It's been suggested they're simple game pieces. I think probably more on the line of astrological and religious sort of things. But even though they've been found from above the Baja border up to through Ventura, the center and the most found ever in the world, Bolsa Chica. So, and the group, this Tongva Ahachiman through the Bolsa Chica area, used it probably seasonally, probably in the winter, from what they can deduct from the most recent archaeologic digs. And even in the last 1,500 years or more, it wasn't as occupied as much. Why? Because it was more productive and used more when that Bolsa Chica Gap and the Santa Ana River flowed out between the two bluffs and made some pretty deep water estuaries, and there was much more food and forage there. Last 1,000, 1,500 years, it silted in, even though the river is where it is now, kind of Newport, Huntington Beach property line. It filled in, silted in. It was less value as a fishery, but still very productive through the flyway and ducks and geese. Get into the Rancho period and huge sweeps, hundreds of thousands of acres, both the Spanish land grants, then short period, maybe 25 years or so of Mexican land grants had the most effect. And what I want to bring out is, being the kind of a restoration nerd, is that every step, starting now with the land grants in this slide, there's weeds that drop in. Famous story about the Spaniards heading up through California throwing mustard seeds so they could find the trail on their way back next spring. Wow, I had some kids chopping black mustard today. Thank you, Cabrillo. Anyway, here we're getting into, middle 1800s. Don't forget there's a gold rush and thousands of people coming into the area, mostly San Francisco Bay and Northern Cal. Southern California was developing. And here you see the first, I'll just say, white guy named Abel Stearns, Stearns Wharf down in Newport Beach. He dealt mostly out of LA Harbor and used tallow and cow hides that were the main product, bringing more weeds in through this period. And they traded in cow hides, and they named them the California banknotes of the time. There was another, skip through another slide. I'll mention the gun club was their interesting thing. The gun club, we'll point it out again in another slide, the location on the Bolsa Bluff. But that very gun club was a spin-off from the Duck Club, San Joaquin Marsh, where this society chapter meets. Those very same people in that club had a falling out with John James Irvine II, and they found and bought their own property, hundreds of acres at Bolsa Chica, dug it out, they built a dam, so the incoming water into Bolsa Bay was all fresh water. That was they dug channels and ponds just to enhance the hunting, ducks, mostly ducks. So the Duck Club became the Gun Club, and that's part of it. So, and their properties had they had wells on the site. The water was, you couldn't drink it because you filled up a bottle of water from the well and you could light the top of it and hear a little pop. There was so much gas in it. And finally they put two and two together, and off to the races. Now we've lived with 100 years of oil extraction in Huntington Beach and the wetlands. It's left an enduring signature because there's still active wells in there. Lowlands, but here's what it looks like down Coast Highway, just all these upright wells. But the very next year, we look at the Signal Oil bought it in 40, but that modified, and 600 acres taken over by the Army. And you can still see these gun mounts and other infrastructure at Bolsa Chica Bluffs. And it modified the gun club's use, of course. And so as they finally sold out, I don't want to go into all these minor details, but Signal Oil definitely wanted major plans of the whole thing to be a marina and build this place out. When oil isn't good enough and houses and marinas are better, is what went on. Don't even read this, but Vic Leipzig is part of the main effort by the Amigos de Bolsa Chica. They said, no, don't do this. It was a long fight. Look where this starts in the 70s. And you also had the environmental laws passed through California, CEQA, NEPA. Coastal Commission was formed early 70s. A lot of environmental action. They did the right thing. They followed a similar action in Newport Back Bay, where Irvine Company had plans to build out big homes and fill in the Back Bay and cash in with big homes and so forth. Similar actions here, thwarting a major push to put a marine in. It comes and goes. The Amigos kind of got together for a deal of just save the wetlands. there was a little bit more. Bolsa Chica Land Trust, still in operation now, got together and basically got Signal Oil to sell all their properties to state lands, and that's where we end up now. Now you get a full tidal basin, a restoration plan for the lowland, and just it was opened up. The tidal inlet channel, or they call it the TIC, PCH bridge, jetties, all major engineering projects sponsored by LA, Long Beach harbors for deep water mitigation, and very productive, different than what we've got in inner and outer Bolsa bays, muted tidal zones. And they also helped out by supplying nesting sites in the development, especially endangered state and federally listed California Eastern threatened status of the western snowy plovers. Both nest there, along with other tern species and skimmers. And it's wonderful to see. Go down and check out the bridge. It's so noisy with birds down there right now. It's quite amazing. So in lowland restoration, if you look at the actuals, this is a kind of ideal map. Here's the gun club area. Some are still in production. Muted tidal, there's some flooding and water movement here, but this full tidal basin goes around Rabbit Island. It comes in, all this comes out the channel, full tidal. There was just first few species, and it was monitored for 10 years now. And in the first year, I should say, the species of fisheries they found, plus shark skates, rays, they found both the adults and the juvenile over the year. So once you open it, just add water. It was very productive right then. Same thing with the birds. Birds know what to do on new islands, bare places here. They're doing their job. Western snowy plovers. We use these seasonal ponds. And that really hasn't changed much. Even though there's some oil here, extraction, these salt pans and flooded seasonal ponds with fresh water off the development up here. 3 9-hole golf courses comes down and feeds this. Very productive. We'll mention the need to dredge all of this. Again and again, you can see a halfway silted in channel because the channel entrance was designed for all of this full tidal and all of this full tidal. So until we pull up more oil extraction, they get to do that. When they're done with it, I can't imagine they're pulling out with today's oil prices, but we'll see. And then not part of the Bolsa Chica Ecological Reserve, but let's mention here at Weeder Regional Park, a county park, that 104 acres all through here. And it's a great upland, just like this upland, Bolsa Mesa, contiguous and an important connection there. I'll mention a couple of restoration projects that are going on. Bolsa Chica Land Trust has got plans for most of this mesa, and if you go out there, you see a little shade hut. They're going out some of the tar plant species, super rare. We'll get to that, but there's good plans. It'll take a lot of money, a lot more planning to pull off this area. This is an outline of a restoration project I've been involved with. We'll talk about that a little bit. But let's go, don't forget the dunes, the 4-dune habitat. And you always have that boundary between a ocean lake before you get wetlands. And let's talk about the coastal dune habitat. Should kind of look like this. I was happy when I worked with state parks to help fulfill their goals of making beaches as natural a habitat as possible. It was Ice Plant State Beach. We took all that out and then planted appropriate dune species here. This is kind of what it looks like. It shouldn't be more than maybe 25% cover, but the main take home is that it's growing the dunes, and you get these things, the big blows that come over. Here's some scouring, but you get these big blows and these dunes keep growing. Within just a couple of years, the estimate was 6 million cubic yards were entrained in the existing dune species that were just planted. We put up some wind fences first to help in that effort, but very successful. And it provides habitat for our nesting rare birds, the western snowy plovers. This is at Huntington State Beach, but there's nesting western snowy plovers on both Huntington and Bolsa Chica State Beaches right now. They have little cages on them, exclosures for the nest, and they have a symbolic fencing and signs around the boundary of buffer zone. Successful. Beach burr, Ambrosia camisonus, a real hero in this effort. Fine roots. I've seen a vertical cut, 5.5 feet, and it stayed vertical of pure beach sand because there's such fine roots. As this thing grows, to me, it looks kind of silted in, and it does its job. Also mycorrhizal in just pure sand. These plants can live, excuse me, these plants can live, these perennials can live in sands with just less than 1% moisture, but they have deep roots and they can always find some. Here's beach primrose, Camisoniopsis, Cherryanthifolia, and Sufructosa. Don't forget the variation. Just lights up beaches. There's a couple sand verbenas. There's red sand verbena, real fleshy leaves, even sticky stems, evidence a small feather sticking to them. Holding sand, you can see them kind of getting buried just with the blow sand. And they keep up going through. Here's Bronia umbellata, still kind of fleshy red stems and fleshy leaves. Real heroes. They're both sides of the highway. And I'll mention some of the efforts inside. So inland side, there's been plenty of efforts just banging on weeds. What is it? Yeah. Kakili, Meridema, just sea rocket is probably the #1 weed that you pull that and these dune species will take off. Upland restoration, there's a mitigation for in Harriet Weeder Park for OCTA, the Transportation Authority. Widen highways through the county, you've got to mitigate for take. They really want some rare species in here. The southern tar plant. And this is what it looked like before you started. You know, just it was 99% weeds, 1% natives by transects, mostly black mustard and tumbleweed, mowed each year by county parks, abused by young kids throwing brodies after the first rains. And but just a picture next week. Look at the trees on the side. 5 years of growth from container plantings, almost all. 70% of them put in the ground by volunteers, by community groups, a good effort. We seeded first with land imprint seeding. 81 species of seeds were introduced. They didn't all take because we didn't have a good proxy for what was here before, but it kind of looks like this. Out of the 81, about 65 took off. At least grew a little bit, but there's 37 species that are really happy here, along with container plants. Here's an irrigation line we used for a year. Tarweed, forbs, it's supposed to be coastal sage scrub, grassland, forblands, and then they want some rare plants and rare birds in there too, like gnatcatchers. But here's you got to remember at 5 years, maybe it's looking happy, but you don't have all the conditions. Here's a boardwalk in a restoration area. Rachel Witt and I helped build at Crystal Cove State Park, Pelican Point area. It's still, you can still see weeds in there. It takes effort all the time. You can't turn your back on it, but here it's full out. And this was all bare ground horse stables 30 years ago. Just add water, you get a great response by the native species. First up is always going to be these wonderful fiddleneck. They're building soil and adding organics, little lupin, and then you'll always get some non-native grasses in there too. You got to bang on those. Volunteers, some staff, get them to read, do the science, and read the Transx. Pretty happy year with waist high tar plant, but excuse me, tar weed. And this is the rare plant. 1B1 plant grows pretty weedy, likes disturbance. If you really want it, it's one of the rarest plants in town, in the county, Centromatia Pryor australis. You'll see it in different parks, only coastal, only just Southern California ecoregion down to the border and up through Ventura. So really limited. It likes these marshes and tolerates a fair amount of salt. You can see it in Newport Back Bay, Fairview Park, and other places in Bolsa Chica. It's also some up in the South Bay, in the coastal South Bay. But this is, I'll call it the money plant, part of the mitigation. They really wanted this, and it's done well. Especially if you look at the blue line, when you get, rain over 17 inches, it did really well. Experimental year, there was, first there was zero. You get, scratch in a few meter squares, see if it'll even work in these soils before the introduction of restoration plants here in 18. And then you get some response from disturbance, just add more water, and it's thousands of plants. And so it's spreading in all four directions, north, south, east, west, from where they're planted. Couple dry years, less than 5 inches last year, less than 5 inches on this plot. This year we'll probably get similar numbers, but we see them spreading. Good response by this particular rare plant. Let's talk about the real core of this, wetlands, islands. We'll try to get Melissa Board to talk about all the exciting things and the progress of the thousands, up to 15,000 nesting, elegant terns, elbowing out some of the least terns. Caspian terns kind of trump those because of the bigger guys in town. There's a lot of bird stories here, wonderful stories, but there's predation, just like we have weeds, there's coyotes and hawks and peregrines and so forth. But let's talk about the plants and what's happened here, some of the history there. Here's a Rachel Witt picture when we did a tour, and it went from the parking lot here, chapter, CNPS, Orange County chapter. We did a walk along the highway. We found all the super rare, three species, all the rare ones. We saw a rattlesnake here up on the bluff, and we saw some of the rare plants we'll get to, and we just did a tour around here. Wonderful little loop, 1.5 miles or something. But we take pictures, and this is one of them, Anamopsis herbomopsis at a high step above the wetlands. Here's a picture I took, and I didn't have a good reference, but you'll see Salcornia, Batis, some of these great succulents, just at a little lower step. This is Sueta taxifolia. I think it's a 4-2 plant, pretty rarish, only coastal. Take a habitat's probably the worst enemy, trampling in places, but this is right off the trail. And I think this is likely Atriplex watsoni, but I didn't see that in the notes with the slide. Sorry about that, but in a conglomeration. By the same trail, you can look out through cordgrass areas, pickleweed zones. This is on Rabbit Island. What's this? A floating raft nesting opportunity for ridgeways, clapper rails. And so at high tide, flood tides, if they choose this as a nesting site, and there's over 100 in Seal Beach Naval Weapons Station, just this way, it's woven palm fronds and can float up on these poles. Can't quite see it, but there's a solar powered camera, infrared. If anybody's using it, sticks their head in there, uses that in nest, we can track that. You can look on your phone and see what's there today. Great technology, love it. But this, we're looking across at Rabbit Island. Here's the core of it. Famous photographer, naturalist, Peter Knapp, still working with birds on these nesting islands daily. A real ecologic hero in this area. Before this full title came in, he started pulling ice plant and killing it on 52 acres of Rabbit Island. It was almost full cover. If you ask him, he goes, "Oh, how much was there?" He goes, "It was everywhere." So it covered this large island. You can see some of the mappings through the more recent couple of years when you have to wade across, etc. What you get a response from some of the other rare plants there. Nemacallus denudata. Denudata is a coast woollyhead, a great just sand-loving plant. You see just very few of it on the beach, but it's Huntington Beach. You see it in the dune marshes at the Huntington wetlands also. Bunch of volunteers that in their hip boots, they waded across at low water to get here, go pull ice plant, just turn it over, and it works. I believe these, and this is the high point on the Rabbit Island. I think this is deerweed, acnospawn. Here's what it looks like. Real rare plant, don't find it all. Doesn't like a lot of disturbance. Fuzzy, woolly trichomes, the wavy leaves like this. And then the inflorescence are real low to the ground and have these little puff balls, spread a lot of seed. And the take home thing on this one is all this black material down below is all dead ice plant. Really proves out the success. So just kill the weeds, mostly on our coastal area. You can turn ice plant state beach into something else and have these this great diversity, these super rare plants. Another thing on Rabbit Island, you just take away this, and it took a few years, but we saw woolly sea blight, Sueta taxifolia. Here's the estuary sea blight, Sueta esterova. And we saw a response after a couple of years. And I just thought it was some meaty invasion. There was so much of it spreading around. We had to look really closely. But this, another super rare 1B2 plant, only in estuaries, watered edge, untrampled, and it just took off. It by transect out of the 52-acre Rabbit Island, it has like 5% cover, 2.5 acres of a super rare plant, and it's just spreading out into mud flats right at the right tidal level. It's really doing well. It's so neat to see. So Rabbit Island looks like this. You kind of see a core area that's been impacted. I see old channels and diversions. Probably could be from the old gun club that's right here. Muted tidal, Wintersburg Channel. You didn't mention the pocket flooding area. They also have a water inlet there flooding that. But the full tidal, there was cordgrass all through here. Future projects are when this was installed, this was all planted out by Merkel and Associates, and it's not there now. Why? Nobody really can say. I think it's soils. I think it's a little too sandy. Cordgrass studies and actions up in San Francisco Bay have been very successful, but they have the fine sediments out of the Sacramento River, and that's what they need to really prosper. This island, again, was part of a Santa Ana washdown and very sandy. So I don't know that we're going to get, until we add more organics and sediments, coming in through the tides. We'll see what takes, but there's transplant efforts right now using Tidal Influence Company, who's working very well. It's the Ritos Marsh up in Long Beach. They've salvaged some at a Seal Beach Naval Weapons Station. They'll be implanted the right tidal zone prism kind of right through in here. There's already cord grass poking up. Maybe we just watch it for a long time. But pickleweed for the Savannah sparrow, there was 23 nests through there just a couple of years ago. The latest data set I know, but very productive, at least for another rare species. Other ideas, why not chlorpyron, salt marsh birdbeak? It's successfully planted from seeds collected in Newport Back Bay into Huntington Beach wetlands, south of the power plant. You can see pin flags there now. Go take a look on a tour date, and it's really interesting. In flower right now. Wonderful, super rare plant there too. The other, and these are projects with the Conservancy, but there's a lot of other help from others, and nobody's in a vacuum trying to do these things. But the Conservancy owns about 40 acres around the restoration, active restoration now, that is just about 10 acres. So, and a lot of it just has ice plant. Guess what? Kill the ice plant, you get these responses. So it's a calypsy, the Invasive Plant Council says these weeds, especially, I think that's it with ice plant. It's a slow motion explosion that it just slowly, oh, there it is, ice plant. Oh, you don't worry about it, but it totally smothers everything that's there today. So we depend on seed banks for furthering this. And here you can see the levees, active oil operation, but there's, the green, just add water. This must be some algae that's blooming. Great picture, not mine. There was a fire on the Bolsa Chica Mesa just a couple of summers ago, and it just ripped through, didn't threaten any homes, but great excitement. But you can clearly see Bolsa Chica State Beach, the highway, some of this inland side dune species and habitat, and even flooded lands on this small piece. This is Warner Avenue. And the Bolsa Chica Conservancy has a brand new visitor center. They just redone the trailer. The Interpretive Center with the displays by the Acorn Group, as good as it gets. And Melissa, if she was doing this process, she would tell you about the Department of Fish and Wildlife's interpretive panels here at the overlook, here across the bridge in the Inner Bolsa Bay. Fantastic interpretive educational things, and all three of the aforementioned groups are all trying to educate the young kids and any outside visitors, anybody that has questions about the Bolsa Chica and the worth of these wetlands. Here's the connection, good shot of the connection to Huntington Harbor. One other little piece we haven't mentioned, here's the little pond right here. I know Vic's most familiar with it, Warner Pond, right off the avenue. It is named as an ESHA by the Coastal Commission, and it helped thwart some of the development on this lower Mesa, because if they were going to build here, they'd have to widen the highway. That impacts the ESHA, and you can't do that. Little work's done here, but we're looking at it. Everybody's looking at it. Land Trust is, as well as the Conservancy, and it's just ripe. Some neat little yellow thing in here. Is that our tar plant? No, that's Glebionus, garland chrysanthemum. Into restoration, you got to know the weeds first, and that's what we deal most with in these efforts to improve the overall ecologic functioning and include the rare plants in these efforts. So that's really all I've got. Thanks. It's really hitting the surface. There's a lot of detail on every one of these topics. Give me a call, give the Conservancy a call, take a tour with the amigos that they do. Whoa, I don't know your schedule, but with some synchrony. There's like every second Saturday or something like that. There's work efforts, there's interpretive efforts here, and CMPS Orange County just did a field trip there. I get a lot of worth. I learn something every time I go out. Thank you much.
Very good. Thank you, David. Okay, if people have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. I'll start with one or two and see where we go from there. First, it's just great to hear and see stories of positive native plant and ecosystem restoration stories. You know, we need to hear those things that there's successes in places. And I'd like to see those stories you had. So if people want to visit, you quickly near the end talked about some signage and some trails. Can you give us another more direct, what are the great places to either park or ride our bikes to the trails with maybe the most signage, or where there's the most restoration success? If we want to visit, what do you recommend?
The two main parking lots along the Coast Highway. The last slide showed the corner of Warner and PCH. You can free parking there, free parking at the south parking lot across from the entrance to Bolsa Chica State Beach, and free parking, go over the bridge, follow the trail on either one of those, and you'll see birds, you'll see rare plants, and it's those are the two most used zones. There's restoration along the edge of Outer Bolsa Bay and the Bolsa Chica Bluffs. It's very productive, very productive. Just all weeds turned into something else.
Okay, we have a question from Ron Vanderhoff. Great program, Dave. Has there been any success in reintroducing eelgrass at Bolsa Chica?
Quick answer, yes. Matter of fact, they get in a little trouble when they're dredging because the eelgrass has been so productive, and you can see waves of it at low tide go over the bridge, go along the levees, and it is in huge patches. When they dredge, they dredge out some of the eelgrass, but it's been very successful and still spreading. We've also, as a conservancy, said, let's just try it. I salvaged a bunch that floated out at scouring high tides. It ends up at Bolsa Chica State Beach on the berm line. Pick the stikes up with little rhizomes, tie a little anchor to them, and put them in the mud in a couple different patches. They absolutely take off. And a wonderful fisheries protective zones. The flowering plant, zostra, eelgrass. It's wonderful to see.
Okay, we see Leslie Binloss also wants to reiterate how encouraging to hear the success stories. Richard Watson says, do you coordinate with other offshore restoration efforts?
Pretty much land-based. Offshore, I get news clips on marine biology daily just because I'm a nerd that way. I'm really into fisheries. There's not a lot of connection, although we've made comments during the marine protected area thing. And I should mention too that the full tidal zone in the ecological preserve at Bolsa Chica is listed as a marine protected area. There's really no fishing, no take, but we've commented on the bait barges throwing huge nets near shore. Can't you exclude those where active least turn nesting sites? Strong fisheries, and basically got totally shot down. They went, what are you talking about? Are you kidding me? But inshore, in between the outside break, inside break, at Bolsa Chica just 2 days ago, just saw diving pelicans circling around diving. It's really robust, just near shore, but not too much connection there with other research efforts.
Okay, Daniel Songster brings up that Vic Leipzig is on, and also that Luann Murray, both of them critical, lots of effort, scientific and political, to make these things happen, and we should just open up the mic to them if there's anything historic or current that they want to say. Adding to what David said would just be super.
Yeah, hey, and Vic, thanks for that too. Luann worked with 3Cs along the inland dunes between the wetlands and the dunes with 3C groups again and again and again. She built so much quality in taking out that doggone ice plant and sea rocket and worked and just did amazing things. I think she really bonded. I don't know, Vic, did she adopt any of those kids? She loved them so much. Yeah, really made a big response. I think right now, if you turn your back, a lot of those things can grow back. But there's a volunteer down there now that just loves killing ice plant. You can see piles of them right by the entrance to the south parking lot. It's hopefully that continues. The other note and message I'll just put across here, the plant list that Luann started as a educational tool for the Conservancy is sat there, collected dust. There's been others, including this group, Ron Vanderhoff especially, has edited, added pictures, made it really robust, but they wanted to sell it and it sat there. Now there's an effort to just get it out. Hopefully just put it online as a PDF and you can use the great pictures. It lists all the plants, all the weeds in Bolsa Chica area. Hopefully, I was pushing for an announcement here tonight, couldn't get there. Sorry about that, representing the Conservancy's efforts.
So go ahead, Victor, Luann.
I get the impression that Luann is having technical problems with her audio.
Ah.
Yeah, I don't think she's not getting her audio across. But Dave, you're absolutely right. She bonded tremendously with those California Conservation Corps kids. I'm not sure everybody knows the 3Cs that you referred to. This kids education program or young people's education program that she worked with for so many years, and got young folks out from urban core areas out to working at Bolsa Chica to do some good.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there she's
Luann.
And just to say that she did that at Shipley Nature Center as well.
True, but it's the Orange County Conservation Corps that I worked with, not the CCC, OCCC. And yes, we pulled out every bit of ice plant between the walk bridge south to the oil property. And the next year, after we had removed the ice plant, that little tiny plant, that name I can't remember, that Dave Slough showed a picture of.
Anamonsa?
What was it?
Herba Mansa?
Nope.
Oh.
Little tiny narrow leafed plant.
Oh, the woolly head, huh?
Woolly head. Coastal woolly heads came back like crazy.
Right. It's amazing. Ice Plant State Beach.
Yep. Just get rid of the ice plant. That's all you have to do. Don't have to plant a thing.
Nice. Nice. Well put. Yeah.
Well, Dave, I wanted to add a comment as a follow-up to your comments about eelgrass and successful restoration of eelgrass. That program has been successful in a subsequent way because eelgrass is the key wintering habitat nutrient source for the goose called the brant or black brant here on the West Coast. And as a result of the success of the eelgrass restoration Bolsa, black brant populations at Bolsa Chica have increased tremendously, and that is a species of special concern, especially here in Southern California. And so now, on a regular basis, Bolsa Chica hosts hundreds and hundreds of black brant every winter, and that's those are birds that are migrating from the far north of the Alaskan Arctic every winter to Bolsa Chica as a result of habitat restoration.
Yeah, and I'm reading Melissa Borg's, the manager of for Department of Fish and Wildlife, saying exactly the same thing. I was lucky enough to help a boat full of divers for a couple of days up in Alamitas Bay, salvaged or harvest some eelgrass from one part where they'd planted it years before, and part of that population went to depauperate bulkhead areas in other spots. So planning it out, I know there's been very strong efforts in Newport Back Bay too, with Rick Ware and his company, and working with the other bods. It's a real win. Thank you.
And I can only speak to the birds. I'm sure that if there was an ichthyologist here, they would be talking about the benefits of that eelgrass restoration to the fish populations as well.
Yes, similar benefits as a juvenile hiding place and forage. Yeah, it works very well. And the drone issue, Ron Vanderhoff mentioned there was, not sure which one. I'll bite my tongue because there's a news story, but I can't say anything. But drones have become a new toy that we can't all talk. Don't fly them in a rare bird nesting zone, but all that's gone on. And yeah, I'm not even sure exactly what the drone was. Was that over a nesting site if Ron's here?
Oh, is there this is Melissa.
Yeah.
Is there a chat in the chat about a drone?
Can you, a quick mention about a drone issue from last year?
Oh.
The big thing was a guy swimming out to the turn island to get a closer picture.
Oh, I didn't hear that one. I think that might have been before my time. I did hear a story of that, but yeah, I think in a nutshell, guys, the drones are a continuous, what's the word I want to use? Issue. Drones can be used as effective tools and less invasive in many ways. So I'm not entirely opposed to drones, but we did recently have, which you'll probably hear about at some point, another drone incident that's being investigated right now. The Elegant Tern drone incident is probably the other one that you guys know about, but I'm always happy to answer questions about that later too. Good job, Dave.
Is there an MPA that touches Palos Verdes? Yes, very productive, huge amounts of kelp, high concentration. It's centered halfway between the local fishery harbors of Redondo Beach and south in Long Beach. So a protective area, and the fisheries are just super productive if you don't have that constant take and fishing lines, etc., that impact the overall populations.
Okay, we seem to have a short natural break, so maybe we'll finish up here. And if everyone will just do the emoticons or clap here, say something, unmute yourself, and thank David for this nice presentation, the overview of the whole area there.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
Okay.
Well, I have you for just a moment. I want to put the screen up and just remind you, we have more events coming up for the rest of the month and into June. I hope to hear you, see you, talk to you again. Thanks for joining us tonight, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.
Well done, David. Yeah,
All
nice
right.
overview. Very reachable for everyone.
Kind of too big of a topic in a way. There's how do you narrow it?
So many directions you can go, right?
Yeah. And not everybody's as familiar as I just get to be close and see it all the time. So that's a good one.
And then, like Leslie and I were saying, it's just so good to hear success stories, because there's always something that's out there that for us to worry about and to be working on, but to know that we're building upon success stories that have worked well and are continuing. Oh, good.
I'm amazed how much change, kind of in a negative, impactful way, man can do and just beat up these places. But these rarities, and you can build it back. Takes a lot of work. Better to just save these super rare places. That's why, as a conservation society, we're stronger just protecting these rarish habitats instead of go to development and then we'll put it back together. mitigations aren't as strong as just full protection. So,
Well, I got to say, there's great comfort in hearing that it still works here on the coast. You know, give it a chance and stuff will come back, because obviously in parts of San Joaquin Valley and some other areas, they build and it doesn't come back. It's so destroyed, so far out, so long. So yeah, the coastal stories, you know, and after seeing all those oil rigs, this photo you have there, wow.
Yeah, we forget it wasn't that long ago. 100 years of oil extraction, boy, they can drive over it and impact a lot of it in so many ways. And we won't talk about detritus falling in and just going all over the oil fields. Oh, it's just, there's some nightmares in there that we're still chasing. But I'm a weed guy, so you know, fennel here, detritus there. It's just all the Sahara mustard, a new mustard, first in the county. It's all there. So
Okay, we're going to stop on the positives.
good.
Thanks again. We'll see
All
you
right.
later.
Thanks, Brad. See you soon.